And it's the 1600's turn to go through the shop. Got several things that are going to get done to it today. I got, obviously, engine oil. I'm going to change the hydraulic oil filter because I try to stay up on this one at least every couple of years, just because it's got the loader on it and the hydraulics are basically getting used every time you start it. The rest of them I don't necessarily, not going to say that I don't care, but I'm not going to change them every time just because, if I remember right, the service interval on the hydraulic oil filters on most of these things is like 250 hours. And it takes a few years to get to that 250 hours, and filters are getting too expensive to be changing them every year if you're only putting 30 hours on a tractor. One of the, I don't know if you want to call it nice things or downsides to having so many tractors as options is you can spread your hours out over multiple tractors and don't necessarily bring your service intervals up on every one every year. So you can kind of skip some things unless it's something that should be serviced regardless of hours just because of climatic conditions. So gonna get the hydraulic oil filter in it. I got a new cap, a new rotor, and points and condenser. Obviously, that's, like I said, mentioned before, I'm putting blue streaks in it. I was going to get because these are obviously standard electric, I was just going to get everything standard electric, except the cap that I was going to get that's a standard electric cap was going to be blue. And I was like, I can't, I ain't putting a blue distributor cap on there and having that ugly thing hanging out. So, although I noticed that there's an S on the underside of this one, which has got me thinking that this is also a standard electric, but apparently they make them black for AGCO, because that's where I got the cap and rotor from, was AGCO. So, yeah, but anyhow, that's what we got going on for today. That's my checklist or my maintenance log for what's been done when. I need to get one of these days I need to take the tack off on this thing and send it into Bob's speedometer and have them, whoops, don't mind that, just back here falling on my ass. One of these days I need to get the tack off of this thing and send it into Bob's speedometer and have it fixed so that the tack actually works again and I can keep track of hours. Yeah, a little bit of water in there. One of the big things with this tractor, and it used to be even worse when we blew snow with it. Now that we don't blow snow with it, it's not as bad, but obviously it still gets water in it. And also, it's also what I finally did the points in, or was on its way to doing the points in, is this tractor gets pretty extensively used in the winter, obviously, because, well, obviously not this year because weather didn't necessarily allow for it, but that's when most of the petro cleaning and whatnot happens as far as loader works. So it sees a lot of hot cold cycles and it sees a lot of sweating. And the engine just draws moisture. It used to get, when we used to blow snow with it a lot, it would be even worse than that, but because snow blowing, you see, you're sucking a lot of moisture down the intake and everything. So but you'll see what I mean about the points and condenser when we crack that open. You gonna leak or did you drain back? You bastard. Okay, spin the new filter on so that we cover up the base. And while the oil's draining, we will do the ignition. Got about 3/4 of a turn. Good enough. Okay. Get this thing open. There's really nothing wrong with the rotor per se, but I've had to clean fuzzies off of the contact point there before, and when you do that, you remove the plating or whatever it is they put on there, and it seems like after you have to clean it once, it just greatly accelerates how fast it re-corrodes. So just replace it and avoid the headaches. Remove the dust cover, and you can see it's just kind of, there's some fuzzy rust and whatnot. It just, because this thing sees a lot of work in the winter, like I say, it draws a lot of moisture and just is what it is. And this is this, I mean, I can't really knock the points all that much because these are the points that I put in here. What size wrench is that? I put this is the same ignition that I put in here when we overhauled it. And that should have been the winter of 2012, 2013, because I bought this basically right around Thanksgiving of my freshman year of college. And then Dad and I majored the bottom end because the head had been done in it at some point, fairly recent to when I had bought it. But we had to do the bottom end in it because the bottom end was roached. So you're looking at a 10-year-old set of points that basically just now started throwing fits. So can't really knock them too hard. Although we're not on high cam, so I gotta roll the motor over. Hold on one second. Okay, there we go. So you can't really knock 10 years of service out of a set of points and condenser. And there really ain't even anything wrong with the condenser. It's just the points are just, the frame's all crusty. The contacts, I don't know how well that'll show up on camera. They're burnt fairly bad, which was why I was fighting getting it to run a couple weekends ago when them boys came to get them tires. So, like I say, I'm not going to knock them 10-year-old set of points. And had a bunch of guys saying, or asking about an electronic ignition, which I have nothing wrong with electronic ignition. They're definitely a lot simpler and, in theory, more reliable because they're going to be solid state. That being said, first off, last I knew, and take this with a grain of salt, because it may have changed since I was looking 10 years ago, but last I knew, nobody makes an electronic ignition to fit this distributor body. You have to replace this Delco distributor with a Holley in order to get an electronic ignition for it. So you're more expensive there right off the bat. And if I can get 10 years of service out of a $30 set of points and condenser, why bother converting it to electronic if for $30 I can get, like I say, 10 years out of it. And these blue streaks are, in my opinion, a lot better points. For instance, if you look, it's really noticeable on the inner contact there. Look how much bigger it is compared to that set of points I took out of it. So that, they got heavier springs. The base is actually copper, so it's going to be corrosion resistant. They got the oil wick on them. I mean, I love these points. I don't know why they're all not still made that way, but they are excellent points. With this, I think all of our main users, I think I put a set in the 77 a couple years ago. I put a set in my 66. I'm pretty sure that was last year. Now this, so basically now all the main users are going to have those blue streaks in there. So, need a small screwdriver. How small? That one might work. And the way this works is there's no eccentric screw on this. You literally just there's a slot here and a slot here, and you literally just stick a screwdriver in there and twist until you get your point gap you're looking for, which in this case is 16 thou. And it works better if you if you snug that screw up good, and it'll keep enough drag in there to keep them from closing back up while you're doing what you gotta do. Stay up there, damn you. It's not too bad. Perfect. And then we can slide our new condenser in. It is kind of nice how they did this. You can discard the condenser clip and you're not fighting trying to get the screw in to hold everything down like you normally would be. And then that guy. Well, I'm gonna have to, dang it, stay up there. The spade sprung open a little bit. I gotta spring it back closed. Okay, that's buttoned up, so now we can put on our new rotor. And we can put on our new cap. Why isn't the screw starting? Oh, wait a minute here. Is this thing directional? It kind of looks like it's directional. Guess I never paid attention to that. Looks like one screw is actually bigger than the other. Why won't you go in though? I do believe it is indeed directional. Learn something new every day. Yep. I was worried there for a second. Like the caps on the fleet lines, they're the way everything is clocked on them. They can go on two different ways. Because they're just, the clips are on either side, so you can. Guess I never realized that this one was directional though. The more you know. Now we just gotta switch wires. So we got actually, you know what? While we're doing this, I am going to, since I got it, put some dielectric grease on these just to prevent any future problems. Okay, everything's all switched over. Hopefully that makes it run a little better. It certainly ain't gonna make it run any worse. There really wasn't necessarily a whole lot wrong with the cap per se, but the little carbon button there in the center for the coil wire was getting pretty thin in the skin, so I figured while I was there, let's just make her right. And that cap was 16 bucks, so $16 to not have to worry about it for another 9-10 years is money well spent. So I'll go ahead and dump some oil in it and button that back up because we need it running so that we can do the hydraulic filter. Alright, she's got oil back in the crankcase, and off camera I serviced the air cleaner. Cleaned the sediment bulks. There was some stuff in there, and topped off the 2-speed. That's going to be due for a filter next spring. So everything from here forward is done. So now we got to do the hydraulic oil filter, which is why we need it running, because this is one of the dumber designs that Oliver had on these. I don't know what they were thinking. Because what equipment manufacturers have found out over time is that the easier you make maintenance items, the more likely they are to get done. The harder you make them to do, the less likely they are to get done. And this is one of them things where they made it kind of a pain in the ass, because not only do you have to drain the oil all the way out of the reservoir to change the filter, there is no drain plug. You have to start the tractor and use the hydraulic pump to pump the oil out. So, and I guess technically you don't have to drain it all the way out. You just need to get it down below the filter base, so like right here. But anyhow, so crack our door here. And you just need the tractor at an idle. And the neighbor dog showed up to play with Teeter. This is where we find out my ignition something or other is off. Okay, I got no clue what its problem was, because, you know, not starting, so you go back through, you pull the cap off, you check spark at the points. I had good spark at the points. Check everything else out, everything else looks good. Put the cap back on without changing a single thing, and I don't even think it made a full revolution and fired right up. So apparently it was just because I was trying to start it on camera and it wanted to embarrass me. We just let it pump its own oil out into the bucket until it runs out. Okay, oil came out nice and clean, looked good, so it can go right back in, which it should have been clean. It's only, oh, I changed it 2 years ago when I did all the work on the 3-point on this thing, so it should have been good. So now we can spin the filter base off, which the big crescent wrench is more for ease of reach than it is this thing being super duper tight. And you want to make sure when you do this that you obviously still got a drain pan, because there's still obviously going to be some residual oil there in the filter housing. Okay, then we need to change the O-ring on the filter base.
Have you seen your dog?
She was out back.
Cinder's out there, but I don't see her.
I can hear her tags rattling. She's right out the back door. Anyhow, so O-ring, there's a spring inside the filter base that pushes the filter into the housing. So that's in there. And the new filter goes in. Speaking of dogs, and the fun part is getting all of this back in. Because there's a recess that the filter kind of sets in to hold it centered. And then you gotta keep the spring pressure to, or overcome the spring pressure to engage the threads, but that actually didn't go so bad. Sometimes you fight it. And these really don't have to be super duper overly tight. Really good hand tight should be plenty. Okay, now I can dump the oil back in. Alright, hydraulic oil's top back off, engine oil's top back off. I checked, I forgot, so I remembered to check the antifreeze. Antifreeze is good. No leaks. So the last thing I want to do on this thing is adjust the brakes a little bit because we're starting to run out of pedal stroke. So this one's a lot easier than the 66 because it's just draw nuts. We do need to unlock them though. And they are two different size nuts. I can't remember. But sometimes you get lucky, and if this one will bust loose... Nope, it's not going to. Seems like that's 7/8. Seven eighths, or it's 15/16. It's probably 15/16 because I'm bad at guessing. Oh, nope, I was good this time. Where can you sit? Can you? Okay, you're on a ledge. Don't flinch. Yeah, that's a little bit much. Let's take it. Have to turn it off there. Okay, let's put the half turn back. Okay, I like that. See? A whole lot easier than the 66. Like I said, they learned the easier you make maintenance items, the more likely they are to get done. Okay, this might be easier from the seat. The loader valve's not the way you can do it from the ground, but yeah, that one needs some more. It's not too bad right there. I say we're gonna roll with that. It's definitely better than it was. And there we go. She's ready for another battle. So, run it back down to the barn and put the loader back on, and whether the next clear shot of weather I get, it's got to go back to my house because it's got more work to do over there. So I gotta, hopefully this weekend, I would really like to get that corn picker moved and finish shuffling equipment around that's going into the basement of the barn, and get the sprayers moved and get the big barn situated for spring. And then I really need to start working on that driveway in the back and get that pile of limestone gone, because I'm tired of looking at it, but it's been too dang muddy to work. And I got to take the grader bucket over for the Mini so that we can dig out the trench footer or whatever you want to call that you excavate out so that you can lay down a base for the driveway, which is going to be, I'm going to bust up all that concrete block and that fieldstone and stuff that we pulled out of the barn wall and lay that down for a base, at least to get it out of the way. And then from there on out, I'll probably have to get some larger, probably slag, at least for the base. We can get that usually at least around here, because of the steel mills over in Gary, at least for a while, they were giving the shit away if you paid to have it hauled. And that's what how that horseshoe driveway up there at the farm ended, or farm showed up, it was all free slag. Dad just had to pay to get it hauled, and I can't remember the grade size, but the base on it's slag chunks like that big old, and then it's topped with fines. But basically going to do the same thing there, except I'm probably going to use limestone or possibly finish it out with slag. Basically, the only reason I ended up with limestone to begin with was I needed limestone for inside the barn, and it really wasn't that bad to have it hauled in. But anyway, I need those are the two projects that I need this thing over there for. Because really, we're not sitting... This time of year, I always get worked up because I'm like, man, I got this whole laundry list of crap to get done before spring. But really, we're sitting pretty decent right now, because I got it last important things I got to get done is service 1950T, service the 4150 and get the tires on it, and I got like a day or two's worth of work to do on the corn planter. And by all rights, other than putting duals on and weights on, and I think I gotta swap the 540 shaft into the 1955. I can't remember what the last thing I did with it was, and get that ready for spreading fertilizer. Honestly, I'm not sitting that bad. I mean, honestly, the worst project I got is probably going to be putting the tires on the 4150. That's not going to be fun by any means, but I've been in worse positions at this point in the year. I'm way ahead of where I was this time last year, which not having this time last year, we were still working on putting the 1950T back together, so... And at some point this week, too, I gotta make a video. I gotta do something to test the new mic setups that I got for when I go out to Iowa. So I want to make a video where I can set the mic up and everything and kind of mock up and do a test run of all that equipment. I just haven't figured out what I'm going to talk about yet. So I got to do that at some point this week too. But anyhow, nobody cares about any of that. So I guess that's it for this one, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.